Good morning, everyone. Hi, welcome to the Deeper Life movement with another video. Today I will be speaking about a topic that I believe we all experience in our lives, which is human suffering and pain, why it happens and to whom suffering it happens. Throughout this video I will answer several questions and I will go through my own personal story, if I have enough time, of course, to explain how have I experienced pain and suffering in my life, what lessons have I learned from my pain throughout my life and in certain particular situations. In order to make my points clear, but also to bring a very realistic view about the lessons that I want to transmit and to give to you today in this video, I will be reading from the book of Job, which is a long book. It contains 42 chapters, but I will be stopping only in the first 2 chapters because it is related only to the points that I want to make today. I actually made a video about Book of Job several months ago and I deleted it because my microphone was having issues and the voice was really distorted and I don't think it was very clear to listen to, so I decided to redo this video because of the importance of the topic, especially because of the relevance of the suffering and pain that we are going through nowadays among our societies and nations and personal experiences and personal circumstances. And to be honest with you, I don't think we really have a clear understanding, a deep understanding as to why pain happens in our lives. The only explanation we have about pain is, well, pain is part of life. That's how I grew up. I grew up with the philosophy that life is hard. You have to live it as it is, with pain and everything in it. That's it. Nobody taught us why pain happens in our life. What is pain trying to tell us? Is there a purpose in pain, right? And in suffering? So throughout this video, I will answer several questions, which I believe are important questions, and you cannot brush over. If you want to speak about pain, you have to stop and answer these questions, or at least attempt to, in my case. Of course, you can take the lessons and the messages that are applicable for your life, things that trigger you, things that tell you something, and you can drop the rest and leave it behind. Nothing is obligatory in my videos. The most important thing is that my messages speak to you in some way. So the questions that I would like to answer throughout this video are, first of all, why do good people suffer? And do only good people suffer? Because I think we have a distorted view of to whom suffering happens, who's suffering more. It looks like that in the times that we are living, the good people are suffering more, right, than the evil people. Is there an explanation to that? Maybe we are wrong in our perception about pain. Why do we have this tendency to think and to believe that good people suffer more than evil people? Right? The second question I would like to answer is suffering a test for us, a lesson, a punishment, or something entirely different that has nothing to do with us? It's about divine intervention and divine laws and divine courts and divine justice. We will find out in this video. And thirdly, what is the purpose of suffering in life? Why do we suffer? What's the purpose of that? And how do we deal with it? So these are the 3 main questions that I think go to the core of the very book of Job. If you haven't read the book of Job, I invite you to read it. It's a fascinating book. It's one of the most confrontational books about divinity, about human suffering, about justice, and about hope. So, before I start reading from the book of Job and get into the lessons that I have for you today, let me do a short recap about the Deeper Life movement, about the categories that we share under the Deeper Life movement. The Deeper Life movement is a big umbrella under which I have launched several categories to touch upon different topics that go deeper about life, about our understanding about life, the way we live life, about distorted societies, about how we have built these societies, about the need to look beyond and behind the curtains and remove the masks that we put on every day. All of these things are to be discussed under the Deeper Life movement, but the categories that so far are launched and need to be launched are the general category. This is what I'm doing now, which is specifically through the Word of God. I use the Word of God to describe the distorted societies, to describe the sick human condition, to describe the sick human heart, to describe everything that we do on this planet throughout the Word of God. That is the truth, and that is the only evidence that I have as to how humanity has progressed throughout history, right? The Word of God tells us that. Then I have launched already that category, which is called Made for More. These are real stories, life stories of ordinary people that were called to do extraordinary things. And when I say that they were called to, I mean they were called by God. This was not hobbies. This was not passionate career paths, choices. This was calling by God on these people to fulfill the promise of God upon their lives and upon humanity. And these people served humanity. They healed thousands of people. They helped people to progress, to learn, to gain wisdom, everything else as well. And I started the first video, if I'm not mistaken, last week, I'm not sure, with Katherine Kuhlman, a powerful story. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. There are very, very valuable lessons in the story of Katherine. You have that video here under the YouTube channel. There are two categories I still look forward to launch. The first one is Spiritual Radar. This is where we dig deeper. We dig deeper beyond the facades that we live in, and we get into the spiritual laws and the spiritual divinity, in spiritual justice, in spiritual courts, all of these institutions that guide and that direct human life, even though we don't see them or admit them or recognize them or accept them. Spiritual laws are powerful. They are powerful, and they play a very important role in our life, which means it is in our interest to know how they work and to use spiritual laws in our benefit for good, because spiritual laws are also used for wickedness, and that is what I want to touch upon under the spiritual radar. The last category that I would like to introduce, which is coming soon, is the prophetic word category. Those are prophecies, prophetic words for societies, for nations in general, for the future of our existence. Messages that are a combination of lessons that I have gotten, prophetic words from other prophets from the Bible, but also prophetic words that have come to me personally, that I had to write down because they were downloaded to me to be introduced to you. That is why I find it important to read those prophetic words to you, the way they have come to me, and to bring a sense of warning, but also awakening and shift in consciousness and perspective as to where we are going, right, as humanity and societies and nations. So this is the intro that I wanted to do about the Deeper Life movement, so that you know what is going on under the Deeper Life movement. Of course, this is not all. It is work in progress. We always keep improving and moving forward and progressing, like with any other organization or project, or however you call this. And I hope you will follow my work. Feel free to like, share, and comment on this YouTube channel. Another project that I'm launching soon, actually I was supposed to already launch that video, but it is still in preparation, is Thermometer of Truth, which is a separate project from from the Deeper Life movement. If you remember nothing else about the distinction between these two, I will talk about that in the next video when I launch Thermometer of Truth. You always only have to remember only one rule about these two projects. The Deeper Life movement is about going deeper throughout the Word of God into guidance, the laws, the principles, the values that guide our lives, and how to become better individuals, better societies, right? From a deeper point of view, to live a deeper life. And the Thermometer of Truth does not deal per se with the Word of God. It deals specifically with exposing the deceitful societies, the deceit of the human nature, the deceit of the cultures that we have built, and everything that goes around us, to remove the veil of manipulation and lies that we have built, and to start seeking for the truth, living in truth, and speaking the truth. That is what the Thermometer of Truth encourages us to do. So let me get into the topic. I will read to you. As I said, we have 2 chapters for today, but I will read to you the book of Job in paragraphs, and then I will stop so that I can analyze the lesson that is applicable for that part, right? It makes sense, because if I read it all in once, you might be lost in the text. And I need you to pay attention. So, here goes, the book of Job. It starts with Job's family, life, and faith. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God, and eschewed evil, so he turned away from evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters, so Job had 10 children in total. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, donkeys, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. So what this paragraph is telling us is that Job was a wealthy man. He was rich, right? And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. So they lived such a wealthy life. Basically, now in the terms of today's life, we could say they lived a luxurious life, because his sons and daughters, they partied every one day yes, one day no. So each other day they would party. They would make luxurious big parties, house parties, right? If we could put this into the context of today's societies. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus did Job continually. So what this paragraph is telling us is that Job not only was a rich man, he was a believer. He was a dedicated man of God. He did offerings to God. Not only that, he had raised his children according to God's values about life, according to the God's word, and understanding about how life is supposed to be lived. But he also did all of these offerings. He was so careful not to offend God and to be always humble and obedient to God, that he not only raised his children according to God's word, he also did offerings specifically for his children. He did offerings for himself towards God, but he also did offerings for his children, because as it says here, maybe, says Job, maybe my children have sinned. Well, I have not paid attention, or maybe I was not there, or maybe I was busy with something else, and they have made mistakes towards God. Maybe they have offended God in some way, which means me as a father need to do offerings towards God in the name of my children, because sometimes children are little children, right? They don't know yet. They don't know God the way Job knew God. So probably as they grew up, Job kept doing offerings in their name towards God to respect the name of God for his children. So this is the scene, the very first scene that the book of Job gives us. Job was a believer. Job was a wealthy man. He had everything. He had it how? God had given it to him. We don't just have things in life. God blesses us with things, right? It is a big mistake of us humans to think that we got what we got because we have worked hard. Me and you and everybody else knows that hard work does not guarantee prosperity. Being smart does not guarantee prosperity. Being slick and manipulative does not guarantee prosperity. The only thing that gives that prosperity to you is the will of God. He says so, and that's why you have what you have. That's the end of the story. So Job knew all this. He knew he was blessed. He was blessed with wealth. He was blessed with a good family. He had a good wife. He had 10 children who he loved dearly, who lived a godly life just like him. He was leaving a legacy for his children as well, right? Which was the life of a believer. It is said that Job was a priest. He was not just a man who believed in God. He preached the word of God. He lived every day by the word of God. And as we will find out in the other paragraphs, Job was one of God's favorite people. That's who God loves, dedicated people. People who live in truth, people who live in righteousness, people who are fair and just, who are humble, who love others, without hidden agendas. That's what God loves. Those are God's people. So, then we get into the second part of the first chapter, where we are introduced with something that is still complicated to the human mind, which is divine justice and divinity. This paragraph is titled, Satan asks to test Job. Notice the word asks. Satan asks who? He asks God. Satan asks for permission to test Job. What is going on here? Let me read it to you. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. What this means is that the sons of God, probably angels, agents that serve God, whoever is protecting us in the spiritual realm, those are all agents of God. Whatever spiritual forces are out there that serve God to help humanity, to help us, those are all sons of God. They came to present themselves before the Lord. That is, they gathered before God. They came to report to God. Whatever they do, wherever they go, whatever they notice, whatever they heal, whatever they do, they report to the boss, right? And Satan came also among them, the devil. So I'm going to use the word Satan, devil, or the enemy as we go throughout this video, which is all the same. Yeah, the evil. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Where do you come from? Where were you? That's what it means. And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So I've been around the earth. I've been roaming around the earth, up and down, back and forth. That's what I do. That's where the devil is. Whoever thinks that the devil is up there is mistaken. The devil is here on this earth. I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what is he doing here too. And the Lord said unto Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears God and turns away evil? So God is telling the Satan, have you seen my servant who I'm so pleased with, Job? Job is one of my best servants. He not only serves me in the best way, he's a great believer. He raises his family and he lives every single day according to my will. Have you seen him? I'm so proud of him. That's what he's telling to the Satan, to the devil. But then the devil answers to the Lord and he says, does Job fear God for nothing? Hast now thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he has on every side? Have you not blessed the work of his hand, and his substance is increased in the land? So, what the devil is telling God here is, do you think Job is fearing you for nothing, for no reason? I'm sorry, but aren't you the one who has given Job everything he has? His houses, his children, his marriage, his life, his health, his wealth, his animals. And then he continues, but put forth thine hand now and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. Now this here is very important. Why? Because this describes exactly what is going on with the world right now. So the devil is challenging God. He's telling him, well, that's good for you that you are proud of your servant Job, but Job wants you because you have given him everything. How about you put your hand upon his life and you take away everything he has? Let's see how much he loves you then. Satan was challenging God to test his servant, to test Job. To test him about what? About how much he loved God. Because Satan was trying to prove a point to God that Job loved God conditionally. That Job loved God only when he needed him. That Job feared God because God had given him everything. That he feared God, that he would take away everything from him. So the love that Job had for God was not pure, was not real. It was fake. Isn't that what the devil does in our world nowadays? Have you seen these people that come into your life and tell you things like, well, of course he loves you. You look perfect. Your body is hot. You are young. Wait until you have a child and your body drops and then starts hanging. He will leave you for another woman, for a younger woman. Yeah. Or when they go to the man, to the woman, and they say, of course you love him. He has money. He's rich. I would love a rich man too. He has power. Who doesn't love a man with power? But he's old. Look at him. He's not even your gender. He's not even your, I meant race, not gender. He's not your race. He's from another culture. I mean, you share nothing in common with him. You are with him for his money. Isn't that how people operate in the world nowadays? That's the devil working through people. That's exactly how the devil works. He loves to challenge our beliefs, our lives, everything that we have. He loves to put to risk everything that we have, to jeopardize it, to ruin it, to steal it, to kill it. That's what he does. So here, he's telling God, let's make an experiment, shall we? Let's test Job and see how he responds. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he has is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went from the presence of the Lord. So, what is this about? God accepts his challenge. Why? Because God knows Job. Because God sees our heart. He doesn't look at our faces. He sees our heart. He knew how Job lived. He knew how devoted Job was. He knew the heart of Job. So what God is telling here is to the Satan, go ahead. Job's life is in your hand. Only upon all he has, he is in thy power. So everything he has is in your power from now on. Yeah, go take it. You think you can test him? Go take it. Go take everything away from Job. Let's see. You want to challenge me? Let's do it. That's what God is saying here. So, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. Do not touch his life. That's what he's ordering Satan. He's not telling him, go take everything from Job, including his life. He's not telling him, go kill him. You have my permission. He's telling him, go take everything from him, materialistic things, whatever you think he has from me. Take them away. Don't touch his life. His life belongs to me. So what is happening really here behind the curtains? The first lesson here is that we humans know very little about divine justice. And sometimes the pain and the suffering in our life has very little to do with us, and it has more to do with what is going on up there. Everything that happens in your life, it starts first in spirit. That is why I want to touch upon spiritual radar and spiritual laws, because we have absolutely no knowledge how the spirit works upon our lives. Most people think we are here on earth, God is up there, and we are two separate things. We're not. We are guided by physical laws, but also by spiritual laws. They don't operate apart from each other. They are interconnected. They work together. Right? So what happens here is that I'm going to read what the devil did to Job, destroying his life completely. But the Job's suffering was, maybe I should go into this later after I read the second part. Let me see. Because maybe I'm jumping ahead with the lessons. Okay, so you know what? Let me read it all to you, and then I will go into the lessons, because I might be a bit too soon with the lessons unless you have the whole perspective here, right? So what does the devil do after God tells him, be my guest, go? Go challenge my servant. You think he believes in me because of what I've given him? You think he's fake? Okay, go challenge him. Let's do the experiment. But don't touch his life. Don't take his life. Which means the devil had no permission to do what he wanted to do. He could do what he wanted to do within the limits that God put upon him. So Job loses his family and wealth. That's the first thing where the enemy attacks. Nowadays too. When the enemy wants to attack you, to finish you, he will attack your family, your finances, and your health. That is exactly what he did with Job. Those are the three main areas that we humans suffer the most when we lose something, right? Family, wealth, and health. Those are the most precious things for us, right? So there was a day when Job's sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job, and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sebans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only escaped alone to tell you. So that his animals were attacked. Something slayed them. Well, while he was yet speaking, there came another person, and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven and has burned the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I only escaped alone to tell you. So now your house burned down. Your house is gone, and your servants also died, whoever was serving in that house. And while he was yet speaking, there came another one and said, the Chaldeans make out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, and slain, and servants with the edge of the swords. Only I have escaped alone to tell you. Now your camels are gone. right? Because he had many animals. He had a big, in today's terms, a big business with animals, right? And while he was yet speaking, there came another one and said, Thy sons and thy daughters, Job, they were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only escaped here to tell you. So now the house of your children is also destroyed, but your children died too. They're dead. They're gone. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down on the ground and worshipped. Now this right here is powerful. Back in biblical times, when you were mourning someone, they shaved their head and they put a certain robe that showed that they were mourning the death of a loved one. But notice the word that is crucial, and it is absolutely important in this sentence. He fell down upon the ground and worshipped. He worshipped God. Job did something that in today's terms would be unimaginable. When people go through suffering today, what they do is they get angry. They start raging. They start blaming everybody. They become bitter. They become resentful towards everything around them. It's everybody's fault because they're ruined. Now imagine Job lost 10 children, not 1, not 2, 10. For the power that you need to have as a man or a woman, the power of faith that lives in you, to fall down on the ground and instead of cursing God for what he has done into your life, to worship him, this is absolutely, in today's terms, a revolutionary act. I don't believe there is a believer in the societies that we live nowadays that would react this way if God would take everything away from him. If you can think of anyone, write it down in the comments, because I don't know anyone like that. That is what made Job one of the favorite people of God. And as you will find out later, he did not do this because he knew why God was taking away everything from him. He didn't have any answers. Throughout the book of Job, which is 42 chapters, if you read it, you'll find out that Job had absolutely endless questions. He had endless questions and he kept asking God, why? Why did you take away everything from me, God? I was only good. I have been good all my life. I never harmed anybody. I dedicated my life to serving you. Why would you do this to me? Why did I deserve all of this pain and suffering after everything I have done in my life? Those are some of the dilemmas many of us have nowadays, especially believers, people who believe in God, because people who believe in God are the people who suffer the most in life. So notice what Job says after he fell on the ground and worshipped God. He said, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this, Job did not sin, nor did he charge God foolishly. Notice the sentence here, because this is important. It tells us a lot about the way we go through pain. "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return to my Creator." That's it. That's all. Lord gives and the Lord takes away. God gives and God takes away. God does not owe us any explanation, by the way, because He has given you everything that you have, and He is in charge of your life and my life. And he can take it all away just like that. And there's nothing you and I can do about. Right? So, before I go, this was the first test that the devil did onto Job, to test his faith, to test who he really was in relationship to God. But notice what the devil is doing here. He's striking Job relentlessly, one after the other one. Have you noticed that when pain and suffering comes into your life, things fall apart, right? Like one after one another. They just go bam, 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 bam. You can't breathe. That's how you know it's the devil's hand upon your life. With the permission of God. Never forget that. But that's the devil's hand in your life. He has no mercy upon anybody. Upon anybody. Because he's here to destroy, to steal, and to kill. That's the only purpose of the evil in this world. Evil has no good purposes. Ever. Never had, never will. So, in nowadays, in today's world, that is also how the enemy attacks people. One thing after the other, another one. Your marriage falls apart, you lose your friends, you lose your job, your business goes to trash, you lose your health, whatever. But this was the first strike that the devil did to Job. Then there is a second where he attacks his health, and that goes something like this. Satan asks to test Job further. He goes to God and he says, God, I want to test your servant. He asks for permission. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan come again along among them to present himself before the Lord. Same scenario as the first one, right? And the Lord said unto Satan, from where are you coming? And Satan answered the Lord, from going to and from in the earth, and from walking and up and down to it. Because that's exactly what the devil does upon this earth. He goes and he identifies and he searches for believers. Because evil people, he doesn't need them. They are already corrupted. They are already under the Satan's control and the devil's control. He has no use from evil people. So what he does is he goes around the earth, roaming around the earth, looking for believers, looking for people who live in virtue, looking for people who live a good life, who have a bond with a strong relationship with their Creator. These are the people that the devil wants to destroy. These are the people he cannot stand. These are the people he wants on his side, because that is the purpose. The more souls he has on his side, the more the devil believes that he is winning the battle against God. Well, let me tell you a secret about the devil. He's stupid. Nobody can ever win the battle with God. You'll find out why as we go along. And the Lord said unto Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Same question. That there is none like him on the earth, a perfect and an upright man, and one that fears God and turns away evil. Basically, what God is ironically telling here again by asking the same question to the devil is, how did that work out for you, boy? Did you manage to turn Job against me? Did you manage to win him on your side? Because if Job would have gone on his knees and said, I curse you, God, I don't love you anymore, you are dead to me, God, then the devil would have won. Because then there's only two ways. You either serve God or you serve the devil. That's it. There is no middle way. There is no middle choice in this life. That's it. That's the reality. So that would mean he would have chosen for the devil. Right? And the devil would have won this battle. So God is telling him here indirectly, how did that work out for you? But the devil, he keeps pushing, because that's what happens in real life as well nowadays. The devil does not give up. No. He's very persistent. Very persistent. So, God continues. Have you considered my servant, an upright man, one that fears God, and still holds fast his integrity? There you go. Although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. So Satan, how did that work out for you? Because Job, as I see from here, still has his integrity. He did not give up on me because of your games, because of your testing. No, he still believes in me, even though you tried to turn me against him and him against me. Because that's what the devil does. It's a double game. The devil plays a double game. Evil on this planet makes you believe that he's on your side. Actually, he's playing both sides. And in the end, the evil is on nobody's side. He's only on his own side, on the side of the evil. But he will come in between God and God's people, the believers, to turn them against each other, to make the believer think that God does not love you. He took everything from you. He does not love you. He has abandoned you. Where is your God? Isn't that what people do nowadays? When people that we cannot explain why they are dying and children and wars are going around, the first reaction of man is, where is your God? Where is God when pain and suffering happens on this planet? Well, that's how you know the devil is whispering in your ear, my dear friend. Be careful. Be careful what you hear and be careful what you blabber out your mouth. That's one side of the game. The other side of the game is the devil will go to God and try to challenge him up there to turn him against his creation. Nobody can turn God against anybody. The devil is fooling himself here. That's what's happening. Because the devil knows exactly who God is. The devil knows who God is. But he tries anyway. That's a trick. He tries anyway with his games. So, and Satan answered the Lord. He keeps going. And asked and said, skin for skin. All that a man has will he give for his life. But put forth your hand now and touch his bone and flesh, and he will curse you to your face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in your hands, but save his life. So what the evil is telling, what the enemy is telling God here is, well, so what? You took away his materialistic things, his money, his animals. He can replace that. He can build a new house. So what if you took away his house? He can build a new house. He can make money again. How about you touch his health? Touch his life. Skin for skin. Because then you will really see how much he loves you. When you touch his life, when you touch his wealth, his health, because the health is the most precious things for the people, right? You touch their health, they're done, they're dead, they're scared. So touch his health and see how much Job loves you. That's the next challenge that the Satan wants to do here. And God is telling him the same thing he told him the first time. Be my guest, but do not take his life. You can go torture him, make him sick, make him look awful, cover him in bruises, whatever you want to do. Torture him, torture his mind, torture his body. Do not touch his life. Because his life belongs to God. His life is a gift from me, not from you, devil. Right? So, what happens here is Job loses his health. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, so he left that place where he was speaking to God, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. He covered Job's body with skin disease. We don't know exactly because this is biblical times. We don't have here what kind of skin disease that was, right? We don't know much back then about this. But he covered his body with sore, probably pimples, probably, I don't know, complications of the skin that are cancerous or very, very, very dangerous for the health of a human. Basically, he covered him from the sole of his foot, from underneath his foot, onto his crown, till here. And he took him a potsherd, to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. So Job would take something from the pottery, a broken pot or something, to scrap them from his skin. Probably they were itchy, probably they were painful, maybe he looked terrible. We don't know. We don't know these details. This is just in my imagination as to how he would look covered in all of these sores. Right? And his wife, Job's wife, tells him, are you still retaining your integrity? Are you still going to be stubborn and have faith in God? Look what God has done to you. Curse God and die. His wife, the closest person after his children died, the only person who was there to comfort him in times of pain and suffering, she turns against him and she says, you can curse God and go die, because you're already dead. Your life is over. Your life is over. Isn't that what the devil whispers in our ear nowadays? When you lose that business, when a child dies in the family, when you lose a dear person, you lose your parents, whatever happens to you, even when you get sick, isn't that what the devil whispers in your ear? You have no more reason to live. What about when you go through depression? What is the first thought of depression? Suicidal thoughts. What about when you go through anxiety? It's over. You're done. You have failed. Your life is over. Why are you still living? Go die. Because God has abandoned you clearly, because he took away from you everything. So go die. That's what his wife told Job. What do you need your integrity for? You still holding on onto integrity? You think this is about integrity now? What do you need the integrity for? Your life is over. The devil speaks to us through people. Some people are so delusional, they think that the devil will appear in front of him with the horns and with a rat suit and with a pitchfork. The devil is a spiritual force. He influences your mind. He influences your decisions. He influences your beliefs. That's how he manipulates you. So be careful what you listen, who you listen to. Job said unto his wife, he answered, and he said, you are speaking as one of the foolish women. You are speaking like a foolish woman. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips. So he told his wife, you're stupid. You know why you're stupid? Because you think life is all about good things. You think life is all about God giving you good things. And when he takes those things away, well, then God is no good. Then God must hate you. That's where your foolishness lies, woman. That's what he's telling her, right in her face. This is the answer a lot of people deserve nowadays, in your life, in my life, everybody's life. People who try to challenge God's decision upon your life. People who try to test God because they work with the devil. Whoever walks with God, they don't question God. Notice what this says in the last sentence. In all of this situation, with everything that the devil was trying to tell Job through his pain, Job did not sin with his lips. Nope, not a word against God. Not a word against God. Why? Because as he said here, God gives and God takes away. It's his right. So, this is the text, right? We have made an introduction into what is the book of Job about? What is going on here in roughly description and in this scene? Let me get into the context and into the deeper interpretation of the word here. First of all, let me go through the reasons why we people suffer. Why do we suffer? Right? That's the first question. Why does suffering even exist? And why do good people suffer? And do only good people suffer? Because this was the first question for Job. And the first question that we think about Job is why Job, a dedicated believer, suffered. Why did God have to test him? The first lesson here is that pain in our life is sometimes as a result of divine intervention. Job's suffering was part of a bigger picture. It was part of a divine intervention that Job could not see, Job could not understand. Even nowadays we do not understand how divine intervention works. God intervenes in our lives through many things, sometimes through suffering and pain. But He intervenes in our life constantly. The fact that we cannot understand why is that happening does not mean that it is wrong, right? So in this case, there was a bigger spiritual battle going up there. It was a spiritual warfare. I will speak in the first video under the spiritual radar about spiritual warfare, what it's exactly. What does it stand for and how does it happen here on this planet, spiritual warfare? So that started in spirit. The problem was not between God and Job. God knew who Job exactly was. Right? And it wasn't also because Job had done something bad. It was not a punishment. It was not God disciplining Job for something that he had done. That was not the reason either. It was part of a bigger divine picture. And the problem with that is that when it comes to spiritual laws and spiritual application of laws, we know very little. We humans know very little. We do not understand God's ways. We do not understand how God operates because God does not work. He does not think in the same way that humans do. The biggest mistake humans do is they try to understand God from the mind's level. That if pain does not make sense to us, we think there's something wrong with God. We think God hates us. We think God has abandoned us. We think something is happening up there and God is punishing us, which is not true in this case. This was between God and the devil. And Job was just a vessel to prove a point. His suffering had nothing to do with his mistakes, or his wrong choices, or his lack of obedience in life. Even though Job did not understand that, because it was normal for him to not understand. Why was this happening? And he kept asking God about it, and God answers him in the last chapter of this book. You can go and read it. Chapter 42 in the book of Job. God answers Job. He gives him an answer about his suffering. But the point here is that we humans die ignorant when it comes to spiritual battles. The only two things that we know about pain and suffering in this life when it comes in connection with God is, well, pain is part of life. You get too used to it. Right? Or, well, if you suffer in life, it's because you have done something bad and God is punishing you. That was also the thing that Job thought here. If you go in the other chapters after these first two chapters, when Job's friends come to visit Job to comfort him and they sit with him for 7 days, they mourn with Job, his kids, and they try to console him. But then, because nobody could understand why this things were happening in his life, one after the other one, tragedy after tragedy, they started to judge Job because they also did not know better than Job, right? And instead of consoling him, they ended up judging him. They started telling him, Job, go pray and repent. Whatever you have sinned for, you have to repent in front of God because God is punishing you for something. He is trying to teach you a lesson. You have done something wrong, Job. You have to admit it. Actually, that was not the case at all. He had done nothing wrong. So yeah, our understanding about God's ways is very limited. And we rely, when it comes to knowledge about God, we rely in half-truths or lies, or we know nothing about it. We just go around making up stories and stuff about who God is and how He operates in our lives. Because we don't want to accept that we are ignorant when it comes to God. We know nothing about God. We know from the Word, the character of God and how He has used other people, how He works through people. We can get our lessons out of them. And also from our own experiences, which is a powerful thing to do, and it's beautiful. It might change your life. But completely knowing God, no human being has ever figured out God. Nope, because God does not live in our mind. We will never figure out God from the logic point of view. He doesn't live in our logic. God lives in your heart. You either feel the presence of God in your life or you don't. Because Job also had the same issue. He was not trying to figure out God. He had answers for God, but what he did was he worshipped because God lived in his heart. So you either live with God in your life or you don't. You either feel the presence of God in your life or you don't. That's it. There is no middle way. There is no middle way. So this was an exception to the rule as to why people suffer in life. This right here, divine intervention. Now what happened up there? Because this is what was going here down on earth with Job's life. What happened up there? Because the Bible tells us many things about the enemy. One of the biggest things that I was confronted with personally in the book of Job was that every evil that happens in this world does not go undetected by God. More so, it does not happen without the permission of God. And to be honest with you, I got a little bit triggered by this statement because I thought to myself, are you telling me that everything that we go through, the suffering, the wars, the people who die, innocent people dying, sicknesses, endless things, terrible things, terrorism, violence, rape, everything, it happens because God allows it? That was my point of indignation. Right? Because we are raised in this planet and we are brainwashed into thinking that there is two forces out there, good and evil, that are constantly struggling and fighting towards each other, and that there is a slight chance that the evil might win the battle with good, that is devil and God, which is a complete illusion and a big lie. The other lesson that I learned here about divinity and how it works is that the devil has power on this planet, but the devil is not omnipotent. The devil is not an all-powerful force who does whatever he wants. That's not it. As you saw through the book of Job, the devil needed God's permission to touch Job's life. God had to give him permission, which means the devil is subject to divine limitation, which means the devil and the God are not the same. They don't have the same power. Which means the only one who is in absolute control of everything is God. And that's only God. So, whatever evil you think you have in your life, who is roaming around the earth here, whatever he's trying to do in your life, the first message is don't be scared, because he is not all-powerful. He cannot touch you unless God allows it. So your question, my friend, should be, why does God allow pain in your life? Why does it allow it? That means you have to go to God. That means you have to strengthen your relationship with God. That means you have to pray and ask God, just like Job did. Why is this happening? I think as I go through the lessons, I would like to share a little bit of my story. Because by the end of this video, I want to share with you the most important lessons that my pain and suffering has taught me in my life. Maybe it will help you process your pain as well. But for almost 20 years of my life, and not just 20 years, but the most beautiful years of my life, that is from the age of 17 to about 38, something like that, I suffered from extreme anxiety. I also went through depression, but the anxiety was my biggest suffering. Why? Because it wasn't a sporadic anxiety. It wasn't like, oh, I have an exam now and I have to go do something and I'm shaky and I'm sweaty and I'm nervous, that kind of anxiety. My anxiety was extreme. I would go through panic attacks almost every day. I would faint on the street. I would faint at the grocery store. I would faint in the classroom or in the middle of an exam. I would go through hyperventilation episodes that scared me to death. That scared me to death. And that is for almost 20 years of my life. I want to share my story as to what that did to me and with me, and what did I learn from that experience. Because the next point I want to make in this video is that pain happens for a reason. Pain and suffering in your life is not for nothing. That is one of the mistakes that we make as humans. We think we go through suffering because there's suffering. Because it's part of life, that's it. We don't go deeper on that, which we should. Because pain and suffering always have a reason. But what was the suffering and pain for Job? What was happening to Job and why? Now, as God was trying to teach a lesson to the devil, he was also testing Job. He was not testing Job because he didn't know how good Job was. He was testing Job to make the devil look stupid, to tell him, really? You really thought you can mess with my people? Let's find out. And after you find out, you'll be stupid. You'll feel very stupid for even trying my people, for even going after my people. Because in the end of all this story, God not only answered to Job what the purpose was of all this pain and what happened, but he restored everything Job had lost twice as much. He gave him back everything he had lost twice as much. Yeah. And Job lived 134 years, if I'm not mistaken. A long life, a healthy life, a happy life. So, there were two kinds of things here, right? Job had to pass many tests to prove that nothing could destroy his relationship with God. To prove it not to God, to prove it to the enemy. Yeah, because he had nothing to prove to God, and God had nothing to prove to the devil. God wanted to make the devil look ridiculous. That was the purpose here. But Job had to pass many tests here, just like we do. We all pass many tests in life. Some of us have to pass a test of faith. Some of us a test of patience. Some of us a test of hope. Some of us a test of love. Some of us a test of tolerance. We all have different tests. But in Job's case, there were at least 3 tests that he had to pass. And they were the following. The first one is the test of faith. The second one was the test of gratitude. And the third one is the test of loyalty. And they had all 3 to do with God. Now, before I get into the tests that Job had to go through, let me answer the first question here, because that was also part of Job's journey. Why do good people suffer? Job was a good person. Why did he suffer? And do only good people suffer? Here's the first rule you need to remember about suffering and pain. In this life, we all suffer. Why? Because we live in a fallen world. We live in a sinful world. We live in a world filled with damage and filth and evil. So yes, in such a world, it would be a miracle to not suffer. That would be non-existent, not possible. So in this life, we all suffer. But the question, why do good people suffer, is the wrong question. The right question we need to ask is, because if we believe that all people suffer, then this question falls. Is no more valid, right? That means not only good people suffer, evil people suffer too. But the right question to ask here for us all is not why do good people suffer, and if good people suffer more than evil people. The right question to ask is, do good and bad people suffer for the same reasons? And the question is no. They don't. Good and bad people do not suffer for the same reason. They suffer for different reasons. Why? Because they have different lessons to learn. Why? Because they have to go through different journey in life. Why? Because they have done different things in life. A good person has done good deeds, and an evil person has done evil deeds. So no, they don't suffer for the same reason. That's not fair either, right? Because why would a person pay the same price as someone who has done evil? It's not the same. Of course not. We pay the price that we pay according to our deeds, according to the reality and the gravity of our deeds. The more good deeds you do in your life, the better things you get back. It's a simple logic. So now that I've established the question to answer to the first question, because here's the other thing that people think. People think that bad people get away with their deeds because they don't see them suffering. So it's funny to me how people go around thinking, well, I'm not seeing that person suffering. I'm seeing that person flourishing. So no, he's not suffering. Well, let me tell you something interesting here. Nobody goes around with a text on their forehead, waving around a flag telling you how much they're suffering. People think that suffering comes only in the form of losing money. People think that suffering comes only in the form of, losing your house or something, or begging on the street. That's not true. Bad people suffer in different ways. Bad people suffer through mental anguish and through wickedness in their heart. Do you even understand what happens to an evil person? Just by their inability to sleep at night properly, because their mind is racing all the time because of the evil that they have done to someone. They're not able to even sleep properly. These people are tormented in their mind because they are all the time expecting for someone to come back and to snitch what they have stolen. They are all the time on their toes and living in fear and anguish and anxiety because they are afraid somebody will come to punish them. That is torment right there. You don't have to see it on his face. That's torment. That's how evil people suffer. I don't care if they have 2 houses and 3 hotels. That tells me nothing about their suffering. Just like good people living in a rent house tells me nothing about their happiness. Right? Because happiness is here. It happens here, in your heart. You feel it. Happiness is not something you go and flaunt around. Happiness is not your titles, it's not your house, it's not your career. Happiness is something you live by every day. It's within you. And it is created inside of you. It's not from the validation of the world. So this scenario as, well, he must be not suffering because I don't see him suffering, is total nonsense. You need to dig deeper, because you'll find out that everybody is suffering. Nobody escapes suffering. So, let me go through the lessons that Job and most of us, including myself, had to go through in life. To understand why pain and suffering was happening, but also to understand myself. Of course, we learn a lot about ourselves from pain. The first test. So basically, pain is only 3 things. Outside of this divine justice here and divine intervention that has nothing to do with you, right? Pain and suffering happens only for 3 reasons. As a test, as a lesson, or as a punishment. That's it. Could be all 3 at the same time for some people. But it is one of these 3. The test of faith. What people don't understand about faith is that faith is unconditional. You either believe in God or you don't. Your faith in God does not depend upon your circumstances. That means a lot of people go out there, when their life is going well, they are devoted believers. They love God. But when their life goes in shambles, like Job's case, they lose everything, including their health, they hate God. They turn their back away from him. But what does this show us? This shows us how hypocrites we are as humans. This shows us that we are not capable of unconditional love. This shows us that we are selfish people. That we think that life is all about having good things. That when something bad happens to your life, well, then God is not worthy anymore. Well, what happened when God gave you all of these things, my friend? He was good to you, wasn't he? So why did you forget his goodness when things fell apart in your life? It's because you never had faith in him. No. Despite what you claim and go out there, you can go to church 3 times a day and read the Bible 20 times a day. That tells me nothing about you. I look at people when they go through suffering the way I did. Here's what I did. When I was going through extreme episodes of anxiety, because you know anxiety is connected with many other things, right? With depression, when it could be many things simultaneously. It's not just anxiety. Not once in these 20 years, almost 20 years that I went through this misery, you can call it that way, freely. Not once I blamed God. Not once I turned against people. Not once I did evil to someone. Not once I pointed my finger to something and said, it's your fault. Why am I saying this? I see a lot of people on the internet, young generation, going around blaming their parents for their traumas. Here's the thing about me. If I would tell you my traumas, you would wonder, where do I find the strength to even smile? Yeah, let me assure you about that. Maybe one day I will share my entire story with you. But let's stay with the anxiety here. Not once I turned against God. My faith in God was not conditional. It was not to be negotiated. Faith in God is not something you negotiate. It's not something you say, well, I'll give you my faith if you give me some money. The ridiculous things that people pray for, you would be shocked. People go in prayer for money. Please, God, please raise my salary. Really? That's a sign of faith in God? To make his relationship with you about money? Really? That's how shallow some people are. So I never negotiated my faith. My faith was firm at all times. God existed no matter what I went through. Whether I was going through good things or bad things, God lived right here. Whether I expressed it or not, whether I showed it or not, I chose not to play the victim in my life. I chose to stand firmly on my faith and say, I believe in God no matter what. I know who God is in my life. I know what he has done for me. So no, whether I'm going through anxiety for 20 years or 40 years, I am not going to say, God, this is your fault. Because I need to understand first why the pain is happening in my life before I blame him. Right? Here's another rule about faith. Faith is not about entitlement. So faith is not conditional. Faith is not about entitlement. What does that mean? Just because you are good in life, it does not mean that you are entitled to a good life. Because that's what the test of faith is. That's why it's called a test. You need to be tested about something. There is something there in the test for you. A message from him. He speaks to us through the tests as well. He speaks to us through pain as well. He speaks to us through suffering as well. People think that God speaks to them only in their dreams and through prophetic messages. And well, I was taking a walk in the park and God spoke to me. No, he didn't. He spoke to you through pain, my friend. That's where he speaks to you, because pain is felt here, and that's where God lives. Right here. So, you are not entitled to a life free of pain just because you have been good in life. Why? Because of this rule. Everybody suffers, good or bad. We all suffer. The other message that I had here is the purpose of pain isn't in avoiding it. I will elaborate on this later on because I don't want to split the messages in many pieces. The second test that we go through, but also Job had to go through, was the test of gratitude. Pain teaches us to be grateful. Grateful about what? Grateful about what you have. Maybe he could take that away from you too. Be grateful that you have it. That's the philosophy here. A lot of people go in life blaming God, blaming it on God that they don't have more. Yes, of course, it would have been perfect to have everything. It would have been perfect to be happy all the time, but that's not what life is all about. Gratitude is the ability to say thank you when things don't go well in your life. Why? Because everybody can say thank you when things go well. When my life is perfect, of course I can say thank you. I can even kiss your feet. I can even pray 3 times a day because God has blessed me and I'm happy. What about when He takes away something from you? How grateful are you then? Because the gratitude that you feel in times of pain is not about the pain. It's not about what happened at that moment. We people are short-sighted humans. We are short-sighted individuals and beings because we don't see further than our noses. We think life is about now and now and now. No, life is about a long stretch. Life is also about what you left behind. That means when the pain and suffering comes, you should be able to tell yourself, thank you, God, because you have protected me, you have guided me, you have given me more than I wanted, more than I deserved. Everything I have is from you. So even if you take something away from me, that's okay. I'll still be grateful. I have enough. That's the gratitude. Gratitude is also understanding that pain and faith can coexist. It's what I said above. When the pain comes, the faith goes out of the window. When the suffering comes throughout the door, the pain flies out of the window. That's not what this is all about. Pain and faith, pain and gratitude, pain and loyalty, which is my next point for the test, can coexist. That's the whole point. To feel the faith and the pain at the same time. To have faith while you are going through pain. To have loyalty towards God while you are going through pain. Because when there's no pain, we can all be loyal. Isn't that true for nowadays as well? It's easy to be loyal to God when He has fixed everything in your life. That's easy. Everybody can do that. But if you want to see who really believes in God, watch what they do when they go through suffering and pain. That's the test. That's where you are tested. Why you are tested? Because God has to remove your mask and to tell you, you are a hypocrite. You pretend to love me, you don't. You're faking it. And I'm going to show you how much. Let me put you to test, dear human. And when you fail that test, then He knows enough for you. He knows that you're going to fail the test before you fail the test, because He knows everything. Nothing escapes His attention. But the test is for you, for God to show you who you truly are to yourself, not to Him. He knows who you are. You cannot fool Him. You can't. So He wants to prove to you who you are. He wants you to see who your true face is. Right? He doesn't need to prove anything. God doesn't need nothing from us. We need things from Him, but He doesn't need anything from us. The third test here is a test of loyalty. So, what is that? As I said, it is easy to be loyal when things go well in our lives. We do the same with people, right? When people give us what we want, we are loyal, we are dedicated, we love them. But when people deny us something, could be righteous, unrighteous, just, unjust, fair, unfair, it doesn't matter. That's when we turn our back completely. We go 180 or 360 degrees and we start blaming that person. We start gossiping about that person. We start defaming their character. We start blaming, shaming, bullying them, gossiping behind their back to ruin their character or whatever they're doing. Why? Because they denied us an opportunity. That's how sick human nature is. So this is the tests that we go through. I mentioned that 3 things. I mentioned that pain and suffering is either a test, A lesson or a punishment? Let's go with the punishment part. I mentioned a little bit in this distinction between why good and bad people suffer, that everybody is suffering. Bad people suffer for different reasons than good people. Good people suffer because there's a test and a lesson there to elevate them, to help them progress, to help them get to the next level. That's why the test is there. Because after you learn the lesson that you have to through that test, or after you get the message and the experience that it is in that lesson that God is trying to teach you, you will move to the next level. You will elevate. Your mindset will shift, your lifestyle will improve, your choices will become better and different. You will love yourself more. That is the purpose of humans, evolution. And you do that only by progress. You don't evolve by sitting in the same place. But unless you are tired, you are tried and tested and punished, you cannot evolve in life. You don't evolve in happy times. In happy times you have fun. You evolve in times of pain and suffering and punishment. So good people go through these tests and lessons to elevate. That means the intention is good. Punishment, which is dedicated for the wrong people, for the bad people, not wrong people, for the evil people, people who are doing evil things around the world and thinking they are getting away unpunished, God will send them punishment. He punishes them. That is to discipline them. That is to force them to fix their mistakes. That is to force them to learn the lesson, to make different choices, to make better choices. That is to force them to see that they were at fault from the very beginning. That is to see them that they need to apologize, no matter how hard it is. Those are the punishment that God sends in evil people's life. Sometimes God does not even punish bad people, evil people. He just watches them. Because you know why? As the Aristotle said, if I'm not mistaken, even evil destroys himself. Evil people destroy themselves. They don't need anybody to destroy them. Why? Because of the mistakes that they make. They make wrong choices all the time. They do evil all the time. But what do you think? You think that when you do evil, you're going to have a good consequence? You think when you do evil and good and bad choices, you're going to have good results out of it? That's insanity. If you're thinking that, you're insane. Or foolish at the very least. If you do evil, evil is the result. If you do goodness, good is the result. That's the basic rule. Are there exclusions to it? Yes, there are. Because evil is everywhere and evil touches upon bad and good people as well. But the bad people, the evil people who do things on purpose to hurt and to ruin and to destroy and to kill and to steal, whatever they are doing there, they will go through the punishment because as a consequence of what they have done, not because God is punishing them. God does not even need to intervene sometimes. He just watches them and he says, well, I'm out here, human. You are just going through the consequences of your choices. We call that karma. That's what karma is in its core. People think karma is God sending you some spiritual forces to destroy your life and he throws them onto you and the devil is No. The devil doesn't even have to point a finger at you anymore. And God is watching because you reap what you sow. That is the philosophy of karma. You reap what you sow. Whatever seeds you plant into your life, that's what's going to grow. Make no mistake about that. So that's how the punishment works. Let me see, I have already 1 hour and 20 minutes. Oh my god, this might become a bit longer. I apologize. I tend to make very long videos because I have a lot to say and I want my messages to be complete and not a piece here and a piece there from one point to the other one without structure. I like to have structure and logic in my points so that I can make my message not only understandable and easy for you to digest, but not very philosophical. This is not because of my inability to make philosophical speeches about life and God, whatever. I can turn it on as far as I want. The problem is I want to keep it simple, because not everybody is into faith, not everybody is into prayer, not everybody is into a strong relationship with God. And I need for everybody, believers and non-believers, to understand the simplicity of these messages, right? So I apologize for the long videos. I will try to finish this under 2 hours, so you don't have to listen too long. So the other point that I mentioned was pain will be a test in your life. It will be a punishment or a lesson. And I would like to mention a few lessons here. I'll try not to be too long. Let me first read you something very interesting about my life, and then I'll get into the lessons. I'll read this very quickly. Those are the lessons that I've learned in my life from my pain and suffering. They have come from anxiety, from my experience with anxiety, depression, struggle, loss of my parents, career, downfall, health, whatever issues I've had in my life. Those are some of the lessons I've learned, many more, but these are some that I thought might be interesting for you to apply also in your life before you have to learn the lesson, right? That's the purpose here. That's why I'm sharing this with you. So I'm going to read them really quickly. So in my 17 plus years, almost 20 years, the last 20 years. Lesson number 1, learning to say no and stop people's pleasing. Trusting my intuition more than other people's opinion when it came about me and my life, about myself. Learning to let go of the need of validation and control. Learning that the past comes back only to see if you are still stupid to go back. Learning that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. I have heard this over and over on social media as well from other people. Understand that I couldn't fit in because I wasn't supposed to. That's not what I was called to do. Learning to never play small so that others would feel comfortable around me. This was a huge lesson for me, because I had a tendency to shrink around people so that they would feel comfortable, because people claimed to be intimidated by my light and by my power. They would feel insecure around me. So what I did is, to make people feel comfortable, I would lower my standards. I would shrink myself. Don't do that. You do that, you have lost yourself. Think about it. You want to lose yourself or you want to lose people. You have to make a choice, and I made mine. So this was a huge lesson for me. Accepting that my goodness was never a weakness. This was a lesson for my enemies. Huge lesson. My goodness was never a weakness. Nope. That's just what my enemies thought it was. The problem was their illusion about me. Learning to forgive people and still not accept them in my life. Stay away. Learning that people know exactly what they're doing. I mentioned this in the other video as well. This was also a huge lesson for me. Do not justify people's evil. Stop justifying people doing evil. People aren't stupid. They are calculative. That was the lesson. It's intentional. It's not a mistake. Learning to surrender to every season in my life instead of resisting it. Learning that you can truly know people only by their actions. Why? Because people lie. Their actions don't. Their actions expose who they are, who they truly are. So watch what people do, not what they say. Yeah? Learning that secret competition is not flattery, is an attempt to destiny swap. Yeah. We'll go into that deeper under the spiritual radar. Why people secretly compete with you and what are they trying to achieve. Learning that my cut-off game was never revenge, it was protection for me. Learning that my biggest enemies were never strangers. This was also a big lesson that I had to learn in my life. Learning that my boundaries will never offend true friends, only the users. Wanting what God wants for me more than what I wanted for myself. That's another lesson I had to learn. And I'm living by that lesson nowadays as well. Learning that life is about progress, but without depth, it holds no value. That's why I started the Deeper Life movement. And finally, when your intentions are good towards people, you don't lose people. People lose you. Remember that. So these are the lessons that I've learned in my life. I will be 46 in a few days. So this is a lot of lessons, right? This is a long life. This is not just me in my 20s sharing these lessons. So there are many other lessons that I would love to share with you, but I can't because the time is not on my side. But let me go through the lessons. What are the lessons that pain and suffering teaches us? Some of them. Pain has a purpose. I mentioned it already. Pain has a purpose. Why? Because pain will teach you lessons, very valuable lessons, that happiness never can. Pain will teach you lessons that the happiness never will. The hardest and the most valuable lessons, the ones that you will need most in your life, that will become your guide, that will become your Bible, will come from times of pain and suffering, not from times of happiness. We don't learn when we feel okay. We don't learn when we feel fine. We learn when we go through struggle. We learn when we fight for our lives. We learn when we go through extreme anxiety. Every time I had a panic attack, I was always asking God. I never blamed him, but I always asked, just like Job, God, what is going on? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And with every question that I made, an answer came in. Stop saying yes to everybody. Start saying no. Stop people's pleasing. And so the lessons would show themselves. They would show up as I went through every question. Right? That's how it works. So be careful. Watch what pain is trying to tell you, the lesson. If you haven't learned the lesson, if you refuse to learn the lessons that you have to learn as you go through pain and suffering, they will keep repeating. And here's the problem. The pain will intensify because you refuse to learn the lesson. You will be pushed even further towards the wall until you surrender to the pain, until you say, pain, what are you trying to tell me? Until you sit alone in a room and reflect upon your life. The pain will be persistent. That's why my anxiety was 20 years and not 10 years and not 5 years and not 3 years. I refused to take medication. I refused to go into therapy. Yeah. Because I knew that was not the salvation of my anxiety. My salvation would not come from pills and medication. My problem was spiritual. My problem was spiritual. My soul was suffering. Anxiety, if you're going through anxiety, remember this. From someone who has suffered from anxiety for almost 20 years. Your pain is spiritual. Your soul is suffering. It's not your body. Whatever you're feeling in your body and in your mind as a symptom from anxiety or depression, those are the symptoms. But you need to get deeper into yourself, deeper to understanding where your pain is coming from. For me personally, it was rooted in my childhood traumas. It was rooted in the beliefs and systems that I had implemented in my life and in my mind, and mindsets and things that were not even mine. Things that I had to shake off out of my system once and for all to be able to heal. That is when the healing started taking place. When I shook off all of these things that the pain was telling me to shake off. Remove it. Clean, 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 clean. Go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. Until I got to the root of my soul. Let me tell you a curiosity about life and about myself. I'm still working. Because that's the question that you might ask me right now. Have you gotten to your bottom of your pit? Have you gotten to the pit of your soul? No, I haven't. It's an endless story. You keep digging and digging and digging because your soul is endless. Your soul never ends. It has a depth that never ends. So you'll keep digging, my friend. Don't give up. Keep digging. That's where your healing lies. Right? So pain has a purpose. Pain is a teacher. It teaches you things, right? Now, here is another lesson that I had to learn through pain, which is very important, I think. The way you deal with pain, it will decide the direction of your life. There are only two options in this life: to play the victim or to become the hero. That's it. That's it. The way you deal with pain will define which way you're going to go. Are you going to stay in your victimhood position? It's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's your fault too, God, that I'm not happy. It's my parents' fault from 30 years ago that I'm not happy. Is it though? Is your pain from the past an excuse to stay in the same position? Because that's what you're doing when you play the victim. When you play the victim, you point your finger towards everyone else and you remove the responsibility to do something about your pain, with your suffering, to sit down and ask for answers. You are removing yourself from that position and you are bringing that responsibility towards other people. It's not other people's responsibilities to fix your life. It's not other people's responsibilities to heal you. That's your responsibility. You have to do the digging. You, not me, not anybody else. Not the system, not the government, not your family, not your mom, not your dad, not your kid. It's not their job to make you happy. No, it's not. They contribute to your happiness, but it's your job primarily to get out of the victimhood and become the hero of your own life. That's how it works. So what happens here is also when your perception about pain changes, your reaction to pain also changes. When your perception about pain changes, you start understanding that your pain is not there to hurt you. Your pain is there to teach you something. And when you get the lesson out of it, you also start reacting differently. You find peace with yourself. You find peace with everybody else around you. You stop blaming other people because now you know the lesson that needed to be learned has been learned. Check. Then you move to the next pain, and then you move to the next pain. Then you fix your health, then you fix your finances, then you fix your relationships, then you fix your boundaries, then you fix your relationships with God, whatever you need to fix in your life. Yeah. So, going from a victimhood position into a warrior position, taking charge of your life. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Here's another lesson. Pain will bend you to the breaking point, but it won't break you. Let me tell you why. You can break somebody else, whatever pain you're going through, it can break your mind. You can go insane, you can go through depression, you can become a lunatic, whatever. It can break your body, you can become sick, you can get out of bed, whatever you're going through, but it cannot break your soul. Have you heard of the expression, he died of a broken heart? Yeah, your heart can be broken, but not your soul. So pain, whatever, how terrible, no matter how terrible you think it is, it will bend you, it will bend you, it will bend you to the breaking point where you think this is it. This is it. I'm dying. I am dying. But you won't. You won't die. You will go back up. That's what pain does. Once your pain has finished its function to teach you the lesson, it will be withdrawn from your life. And you will go back to normality. Building a relationship with God is crucial through pain. People are supposed to get closer to God when they go through pain and suffering, not away from God. There are a lot of people that when they encounter a painful situation in their life, they go through pain, they go through suffering, they get away from God. They stop believing, they stop having faith, they lose their hope. They lose their hope. But hope is crucial in building a relationship with God, because hope is not believing in illusions. Hope is not believing in something that you know it's not going to happen. Hope is not you fooling yourself about something. A lot of people think hope is about this extreme belief that something good will happen when I don't see anything good happening. That's not it. In times of distress, hope is about you putting your faith in God, knowing that you cannot fix it. You cannot fix your situation because sometimes we are weak towards the pain. We are weak. We cannot do anything on our own without God. Hope is in the fact that you put your faith that God will fix it for you. That's what hope is. So when you change this perspective as how you go through pain, your reality will also change, because you will no more struggle against yourself. You will no more push to have control about life and over life. You will no more stand in your own way. You will let go and you'll think, you know what? God gives and God takes away. He's in control of my life. I'm not, even though I pretend to be, but I'm not. I control nothing. He's in control, and I have hope, and I believe that God loves me and He will get me out of this mess. My job is to learn the lesson. His job is to make your pain less or bearable or remove it completely. Right? But it's a communion. It's a partnership. We can't achieve nothing in this life alone. I don't care how many people tell you that you have the power over your life, that you are the boss and you control your life, and unless you don't do anything about life, things don't happen. Yes, we co-create, we cooperate, we coexist, but we control nothing. Remember this. Without Him, you can't achieve nothing. Without Him, you cannot heal. You need Him to heal. So start building a relationship with God. It's crucial for your existence. The spiritual radar category that I'm going to start is another proof how powerful God is, how powerful He is, and how much He is needed in our lives. Because whatever evil forces are operating there to destroy us, He is the one who gives permission. And His permission comes from your ability to believe in Him or not. His permission comes from the way you are living. From your goodness, from your dedication, from your faith. That's where His decisions come from. He does not give the same permissions and decisions for our lives. No, He doesn't. That's why some people have a quiet life, a good life, a blessed life, and some people go through hell thinking that they are living, that's what life is. No, it's not. No, it's not. So, we will go separately under the spiritual radar about that, because it's really fascinating. Here's one of the other lessons. Go through pain with grace. There is grace, there is humility, and there is honor in pain. That's the difference between people who suffer in silence, even though they have been through much more than people who keep screaming every day, keep complaining and blaming every day. Oh, poor me, I'm going through so much. Shut up. Take this as a joke. I mean, shut the fluff up. There are people who are going through much more than you, and they are not complaining. And here's the problem. Some people who are mostly selfish and immature, and they're not quite here, they think their suffering is the biggest. If you go out there and you ask people, because they love to play the victim, that's why, they will tell you, nobody has suffered like I have suffered. Nobody has been in life as much as I have been in life. Really? Think again. And again, and again, just to be sure. Stop complaining about your life. Stop complaining. Go through pain in grace. Why? Because pain is not about your body, it's not about your mind either. Pain is an experience that your soul needs to go through for it to grow and expand. Yeah? Unless your soul is being fed with the lessons that it needs to be fed, you're not growing. Forget about it. I don't care how many titles you have. I don't care how many university degrees you have. I don't care how many magazines put you on their cover. Unless your soul is feeding. You feed your soul, even through pain and suffering, with the lessons that it needs to learn. You are not growing, my friend. You are fooling yourself. That's what you're doing. So, go through pain in dignity. Stop blaming the whole world for your pain. Everybody goes through pain, some more than you. Learn from other people. Ask God to give you grace to go through pain. Sit down with yourself and suffer in silence. Why? Because there's no purpose in going around and yelling. You can scream all day about your pain, but what? Do you think you're changing something? That's it. You still have to go through the journey of the pain. Your relief from pain is not in blaming others. Your relief and healing from pain is not in shaming and trying to destroy others. That's not how it works. The pain is yours for a reason. You have to go through it. You have to sit in it. You have to live it. You have to feel it to your bone. That's where the dignity comes in. Be okay with your pain. It's yours for a reason. So, the last lesson here. Let me make a joke here before, because I got too serious. Let me make a joke about, because we had this question in the beginning, right? Why do good people suffer? There's another question, which is the funny version of it. Why do God's people suffer the most? And the answer is, why not? They are the one who can handle it. So there you go, that's a joke. There is some truth in that, by the way, but okay. Last lesson here, which I also learned from. Pain teaches you about yourself. Yes, through pain we learn about the world, we learn about God, we learn about virtues, we learn about how we should move in life next time we have pain. We learn the lessons, we go through tests. Yes. Pain teaches you a lot about the world around you, about the life around you, about what's happening, what needs to be improved, what needs to be removed. But most importantly, pain teaches you about yourself. You think if I didn't go through anxiety and through whatever pain I had in life, you think I would have learned all of these lessons? Not a chance. Nope, no way. And you think if I hadn't learned these lessons, you think I would be at the point where I am today? Growing, improving, progressing, becoming a better person, growing in my relationship with God, helping other people through what I'm doing, bringing value to other people's lives through the lessons that I spread here, serving God through what I'm doing to help others. You think I would be doing all of this? And this is just one of the projects that I've been doing in my life. I have many other projects before this. They were not for nothing. They were experiences in my life. I had to learn, I had to grow, I had to go from one level to the next level. So that is the chronology here. The way you go through pain, it tells you mostly about who you are. About who you are. It tells you where your problems are. It tells you where you have to work. It tells you how deep your pain is. It tells you who caused it. It tells you what you need to do. It tells you a lot of things. You get to know yourself through pain. Yes, we do need also joyous moments in our life. I'm not saying that we don't and we shouldn't be happy, that we shouldn't strive for joy. First of all, I don't believe in absolute happiness that doesn't exist. But let's just say joy, right? I believe in joy in life. Yes, you do need good moments in your life. Of course, we are human. We need to go through all the experiences and we need to experience all the human emotions that we have. That's also food for the soul. But pain teaches you about yourself mostly. Because pain is uncomfortable. Pain is challenging. Pain is confrontational. Pain will tell you exactly what it thinks about you. Pain will tell you the truth about yourself that joy won't tell you. Because the joy and the happiness tell you you are pretty, you are good, be proud of yourself, you are doing so good, I'm so proud of you. That's what joy tells you. Pain will tell you that problem you are wiping under the rug, no, get it on the surface. We need to get rid of it. You need to work on it. That's what pain tells you. And people don't like that. That's why it's easier for people to point their finger towards God and say, you know, God, you have created all of this mess on the earth. And even if I created it, you, God, need to come and clean it up for me. Really? That's how life works? You make mess out of this planet and then you expect God to come clean it up for you? No, no. You're going to go through your pain, dear human. You're going to go through pain and after pain and after pain until you learn your lessons. Yeah, right here. You need to learn the lessons. You need to grow. You need to improve. You need to put it in your skull that the things that you do have to change. Yeah, you need to evolve. That's what human evolution stands for. So, I believe I covered most of the things that I wanted to share with you. The last statement about teaching about ourselves through pain, there was a sentence here that I don't want to miss, is tragedy reveals our true character. Yeah, and people are uncomfortable with that. They don't like it at all. Because people don't like to see their true faces. No, people want to go around and tell everybody else who they are. But when you ask them who they are for themselves, they don't like the answers that they get. Yeah? Because people don't like confrontation. But confrontation is necessary for progress. Yeah? And for healing. Let me see if I have a few more lessons here from my journaling book. And I will, 150, I'll make it 2 hours, I think. Even. Okay, let's see if I missed something here. So, another thing here important, the hierarchy of the pain and suffering. There's the pain to test you. When the test does not work, then there's the pain to give you the lesson. Yeah. And when you don't learn the lesson, there is the test, there is the pain to punish you, to be a punishment. And if it's neither of these things, then it's that exclusion of the rule, which is divine intervention. And it has less to do with you and more to do with how God works, which we will never understand. But that is not a reason and an excuse for us to stay in pain. Not being able to understand God's ways is not a reason for you to say, I give up. Let the pain take my life because I give up. I don't understand pain. I don't know what God is doing in my life. So yeah, whatever. I give up. Instead of that, I'm going to be bitter and I'm going to be yelling and I'm going to be angry with everybody. No, that's the wrong approach to pain. Here's another important lesson. The way you respond to pain is a choice. I know what you're thinking. No, but I had a lot of traumas and my parents beat me when I was a kid and they were emotionally unavailable and nobody told me I love you and I'm proud of you. And cut it out. Cut it out. Stop acting. Stop pretending. Because you know that's not true. Pain is not an excuse for you to blame anybody. Pain is also not an excuse to make the same choice over and over and over and over again for 50 years. Because you refuse to make that choice. Yeah? So, because the way we respond to pain is a choice, pain can become only one of these two things. Your breaking point, where you want to end it completely because you are not able to get out of the pain, or it can become fuel to empower you and to push you towards better things. I belong to the second group. In my life, I've had a lot of pain. I never complained about it. I never blamed anybody about it. I never gossiped about it. I never asked anybody's mercy for my pain. I never begged anybody to understand me. I suffered in silence. I went to God for answers. He provided me the answers. I healed. And now I use pain as fuel to elevate myself to better things. I don't sit in pain. I don't get stuck in pain. I centrifuge the pain and I make it diesel to move forward. Why? Because it's my job. It's my job. So, depending on how you respond to pain, you can become only one type of these two persons. You can become a better person, or you can become a bitter person. Yeah? That is the same as what I said. You can become a victim of your life, in your life, or you can become a warrior. Yeah? And tell your life who's in charge. Yeah? Let me see if I have something else. Pain is never there to ruin us. I mentioned about this, about bending us to the breaking point. We suffer in different ways. The purpose of life is not to have a free pain life, not a life free of pain. Yeah, pain helps you to grow, mature, and progress, but pain is never an excuse or a reason to hurt others or to stay in the same place. Yeah? Those are, I think, those are the lessons. I might have some more notes, but it's already 2 hours. Those are the notes that I had for you for today and the topic that I had for you for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that I have explained some basic concepts and understandings about pain and why it happens in our life. And I hope you will use them to feed yourself with knowledge and get some more wisdom, or maybe to go even deeper on this topic throughout the book of Job, because the book of Job is long. So there are many other more lessons here, including the way his friends behaved with him, including the way the world blamed him about something he never did, the way he didn't understand life. He was lost for questions. He didn't have any answers for answers. He didn't have any answers, and the way finally God answers to him. So this book is full of wisdom. I am using the King James Version, which is a bit more complicated in the jargon, in the language that they use. You can use the New English Version or another international version, which is way more simplified to read. So it's easier to read, but also to understand, because there are no complicated words from Old English or something. And you can use all that for getting out the lessons that you should apply in your life. Here, the purpose of all this that I'm doing is not just to go through this wisdomous nuggets of life, not to go through the book, through the Holy Bible, just to learn about the life of Job. That's not the purpose. The purpose for us here is to learn the lessons that other people have learned before us, to understand life better, to strengthen our connection with God, because we know without Him we cannot do anything, and to apply all of this knowledge that I share with you, and I share with myself first, because I have to do my research on it and I have to read about it. Those are wisdom. This is wisdom that I have to apply in my life, and that I try to apply every single day. Because why? It makes me a better person. This is how we grow. You don't have to per se go through extreme pain and suffering to learn the best lesson. All you have to do is listen to what somebody says you, to listen to somebody's story, to listen to what other people were doing before you. What was their experience in life? What happened to them? How did life or God or pain and suffering teach them the lesson? Right? All you have to do is listen and apply the same lesson in your life. So I hope this video and other videos will help you to apply the right lessons in your life, to become more wisdomous, to gain knowledge, to go deeper. There is a deeper life than the one that we are living, that nobody tells us about. Only this tells us about that. Only Him. He tells us about that through the relationship we have with each other, through the way He speaks to us. He tells us, He gives us answers. But we are way too involved in a superficial, shallow living here on this world. It is time to remove the veil. It is time to go beyond the scene. It is time to go deeper. It is time to go deeper, because, as I said, in one of these lessons that I have gained out of these experiences, painful experiences in my life, is that life is about progress. Yes, you should be moving forward with your career. Yes, you should be moving forward with your fame, whatever you're chasing out there. But without the depth that it needs to experience what you experience, it makes no sense. That is why people find no pleasure in jobs. That is why people find no pleasure in careers. That is why people don't find pleasure in a relationship. It's shallow. It's on a superficial level. They don't go deeper. Because people are afraid of what might they find out if they go deeper within themselves. Well, I'm not. And I'm proud and I'm grateful to share all of these lessons with you. I wish you a very good day, a sunny day, and take care of yourself. Bye.